Hey, 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 it's War Game Wednesday. So come on in, pull up a chair, the daily dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. Woohoo! So today is Wednesday, May 8th, 2019. It is a Wednesday. That means it's War Game Wednesday. And today I am actually going to unbox and take a first look at Time of Crisis from GMT Games. I am also going to look at the expansion for it, The Age of Iron and Rust. So we're actually going to be taking a look at the core game and this new expansion. Now, I do want to point out the core game itself is the second printing. So the second printing just came out this year. In fact, I believe it shipped last month is when it started showing up for the pre-orders. So got some cool war game. I want to point out Time of Crisis is not a heavy war game. It's actually a pretty low complexity it's got a lot of strange mechanics tied together. Well, I shouldn't say strange. Let's just say mechanics that we don't normally see in a lot of conflict simulations. So, as an example, there's a bit of a deck building element to Time of Crisis. So it's a very unique game. So we are going to take a look at it. It is the second printing. So do understand that some of the errata was not addressed in this second printing. I'm not positive. I do not know. All I know is that the rulebook itself is the second edition, but I think there are still a few items that they did not address. Those may have been addressed in the expansion. I don't know. We will find out. Anyway, tonight is actually episode 299 of The Daily Dope. Yes, we are closing in rapidly on episode 300 tomorrow night. Do want to mention that. Hey, Nefarious Coel's popping in to chat. Good to see you, Nefarious. So, do want to point out that Wargame Wednesdays are sponsored by my friends over at Flying Pig Games and Tiny Battle Publishing. Yes, for some really hefty, good conflict simulations such as Armageddon War, Night of Man, be sure to go over to Flying Pig Games. And for a pretty wild mix of both war games and kind of science fiction games and even role-playing games now, by all means, please go visit Tiny Battle Publishing. Both companies are actually owned by my good pal, Mark H. Walker. All right, so anyway, as I started to say, we are one episode away from number 300. And this is a live stream. If this is the first time you're popping in to check out the show, this is live, so it's very casual. The show's quite a bit different than a lot of the tabletop gaming shows out there where it's just somebody pre-records something, they edit everything, and it's like 10 minutes long. That's not how this show operates. So I know it's an acquired taste. Nefarious Coel will certainly attest to that. But it is live, so that means there is chat available on YouTube. So if you have a question, maybe you want to say hello, or maybe there's something about Time of Crisis or The Age of Iron and Rust you'd like to get a closer look at, by all means, chime in. I do pay attention to the chat. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the stranger commenters at bay, but I do pay attention to the chat and respond as well. I also kind of repeat sometimes what people say in chat. I know I've got a few emails asking about that. And I have pointed out before that about 30% of the people who watch The Daily Dope or other Gaming Gang videos don't actually watch them on YouTube. They watch them from the gaminggang.com website. Sometimes they watch it on phones or tablets, and there is no chat replay for that. So that's one of the reasons why I point out, and I'll say something like, hey, so Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review says, hey, what's up? And yes, Nefarious Coel says the official fly-by seat of pants stamp of approval. Yes, that's kind of how this show is here in the Duct Tape Studios. A lot of times it's just by the seat of the pants. And if it's not something where I'm sharing tabletop gaming news of the day, nothing scripted. It's all, off the cuff. Do want to point out, last night's show, I did a first look at a page through for Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Where we got that floating around? I got it over here. So, for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, this is the latest adventure supplement. It's coming out on the 21st of May, so it's not out yet. And I mentioned on last night's show, I'm going to mention this on each and every show from now until the 19th. I don't need 2 copies of the book. So this is actually the limited edition of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and usually the limited editions for the 5th edition D&D books end up going for about 100 to 120 on the secondary market because they are published and printed in a limited number. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to give away my copy of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and I decided I will actually ship this anywhere in the world within reason. Okay, you can't be watching in Iran and say, hey Jeff, I'm the winner, right? So I am going to actually ship it anywhere in the world. So the contest basically is I have to hit 2,000 subscribers. I know it's a ways off, right? That's like 50. No, I think it's like 65 or 650 subscribers. Remember, I think I'm at like 1350 or whatever. I don't know. Hey, it took long enough just to get to 1,000. But if I can get to 2,000 subscribers, all you got to do is comment on any video from yesterday, which was the 7th through the 18th, and be a subscriber, and I will choose one at random, and they will win this copy of Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I might try to get some PDF stuff put together as well, so try to get a few different items. So let's see. Flaming Herons popped in. So Nefarious says, I vaguely recall the sinister Secret of Saltmarsh adventure back in the day. Is it along the same lines? No, it's actually those 3 adventures, the U series, plus some other adventures that were in Dungeon Magazine that have been revamped for 5th edition. So now you know why I call my channel Unscripted and Unchained. There you go. Oh, listen, let you and you's plug in their show, man. I tell you. Yes, Nefarious says I'm over 1,300 at the moment. Yeah, I'm like 1,355. It's weird. I'll suddenly show like 3 new subscribers one day, and then the next day it's like 3 fewer subscribers. Then it'll say 3 new subscribers. It's like, just goes up and down and up and down. So, anyway, hey, well, like the last 350 subscribers have been fairly quick compared to how long it took to get to 1,000. But I'm terrible at, like, self-promotion, like, on social media. I really am. I am awful at it. Just like I wish I had a better handle on how YouTube does their algorithm, because it's really strange. Sometimes I'll actually do a search for a game that I've covered, and I might have way more views than other people for something, but I'm way down on the list. And it's like, I don't get it. I just had something last week, and granted, right after the show, usually there's, after the first night, there's like 50 views, something like that. And I had like 60 some views, but I was still like 4 videos below somebody who had posted something a week and a half before that had 6 views. Dunno. I have no idea. Yeah, they put it in suggested video lists and things like that. Yeah, it's real, I don't know. I have no idea. But you would think that when you do a search on YouTube for like a specific game, that you would actually see that result come up higher than things that are kind of related. It's like for the longest time, the Gaming Gang would come up. The number one search result for the Gaming Gang on YouTube was some guy explaining gang symbols and had, I think, like 6 videos. I was like, really? At that time, it was like, I've got over 400 videos, folks. How am I not coming up on top of that? Anyway, but last night's show was a lot of fun. We had a really good chat and actually had 26 live viewers, which is, that's a pretty good crowd for the show. It's not like, Board Game Geek Live or something like that, but hey, 26 viewers was pretty good. So, so Nefarious Coel says that's how they happened upon the channel a while back, watching some RPG or tabletop game review on a different channel. Yeah. I mean, it does happen. It does happen. It's just strange how the search results just don't always jive. And it's not just my channel. I've seen other channels too. So anyway, it's no big deal. So you says a great show last night. Well, thank you very much. And of course, those in chat were part of it. So if you weren't here in chat, I'd just, be talking to the camera, which I'm used to doing. Usually Fridays are kind of quiet. So anyway, do want to point out, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you check out some of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel and you like them, by all means, please subscribe. Be sure to ring that bell too, because not only will it notify you when there's a new video that's up, it'll also tell you within about 5 minutes or so when the stream goes live. And be sure to please tell a friend or give us a shout out on social media and, let your followers and friends know about the Gaming Gang as well as the Daily Dope. Oh, please. I'm teasing. I'm just joking. So I'm not doing news tonight because I think we're going to have a pretty big show with the unboxing and first look at Time of Crisis as well as the Age of Iron and Rust. So no news tonight. There wasn't really anything that was like phenomenally popping out at me anyway. There were a couple of things, but they can keep till tomorrow. But I'm going to talk about what's on the show for the rest of this week and into next. And of course, I will talk a little bit about Lil Bub. Lil Bub. So tomorrow marks the 300th episode of the Daily Dope. And I think like 550 some Gaming Gang videos. So we're going to take another first look at a role-playing game product that's not out yet. We are going to dig on into Things from the Flood from Free League Publishing and Modifius Entertainment. Yes, this is the follow-up to Tales from the Loop. And from my understanding, I'm not positive, but from my understanding, I have heard kind of through the grapevine that in Things from the Flood, it's much darker than Tales from the Loop. And that instead of the player characters being, like older kids or younger teens, they're like older teenagers. And it's much more lethal. So we shall see. But I'm looking forward to this. And I have not cheated. I have not peeked inside here. And I'm chomping at the bit because Free League Publishing does really, really good stuff. Their systems may not be everybody's bag, and I know there's some people out there with Coriolis where they're kind of like, I don't like that whole like Arab kind of background to it, and I don't know, it doesn't bother me. But gotta admit, they do really nice books, and their background and backstories and their fluff is usually really, really good. Plus, they did one of my favorite new role-playing games, Forgotten Lands. So, sweet. That was my top role-playing game from last year. So, that's on tomorrow's show. I'm kind of up in the air. I'm almost tempted to maybe take Friday off. All depends on if my best friend Elliot Miller over at voiceofe.com, who's actually doing some gaming stuff finally. He had taken like a sabbatical. It wasn't just a break. It wasn't a hiatus. It was like a sabbatical. He hadn't done anything for 8 or 9 months, I think. But he's finally back into the groove, doing some tabletop stuff. We're going to try to get together and play, because we haven't been able to get together and play stuff for about a month. So, trying to see what happens there. If we can, then I'll actually kind of, take Friday off celebrating the 300 episodes. If not, then I'll be here. And I will be reviewing Mystic Vale from AEG. Yes, my friends over at Alderac Entertainment Group. In fact, you know what we'll also do is we will, not only will I do a review, we'll actually do an unboxing and take a look at the brand new expansion that came out. It's just a small box expansion, but, and stupid me didn't grab it and put it off to the side here for me to show it off. But we'll do that. If I do take a break on Friday, then this will actually be next Tuesday. Next Monday, we're going to take a look at a game. This is coming to Kickstarter. I have not cracked this open. This is going to be another first look here. And I want to say it's pronounced Sheolia. I do not know. This is a European game. It's the Warring States. And it is I believe it's for 2 players, right? Oh, 2 or 4. And it's kind of a battle game, but the artwork really looks interesting. I gotta be honest, I think this company's in India. So we're gonna do a first look on Monday at that. Like I said, Tuesday, I think what I'll be doing on Tuesday is actually reviewing Ghosts of Saltmarsh. So I will be reviewing Ghosts of Saltmarsh on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, I will be reviewing the modern edition of Warfighter from Dan Verson Games. Had a chance to play a little bit of this over the weekend. Pretty cool. I'm really excited to kind of get back with Dan Verson Games, covering some of their releases, because always dug their games that came out. So that'll be on Wednesday. Then Thursday, if I have an opportunity, we're either going to take another first look at another RPG, or if I have been able to read it, I will review Things from the Flood. So we will see a first look tomorrow. We might see a week from tomorrow the review. Let's see what we got kicking off here. So let's check out chat. Wish I could set other custom dice for Forbidden Lands without selling a kidney or sacrificing a virgin to the money gods. Yeah, it is kind of weird, right? That's one of the problems when you kind of, like, even for an example, Modifius Entertainment. Modifius Entertainment, of course, they're the ones who actually publish the Free League publishing titles. But like their Star Trek Adventures, which is really cool. They recommend special dice. You can get away with using 6-sided dice, but you're supposed to have special dice. It's tough to get a hold of those unless you go to a convention that Modifius Entertainment's going to be at. So, for an example, if you went to Gen Con, then you'd have an easy time picking up the dice. Otherwise, you got to purchase them from Europe. Hey, Kabuki Kid's popping in. Very nice. Very nice. Good to see you, Kabuki Kid. Okay, so, anyway, before I jump into Time of Crisis, if you are a fan of the Daily Dope, if you visit thegaminggang.com, then you know that it is a not-for-profit endeavor. So if you like the website, if you like the show, if you like the channel, please consider making a small donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund and the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Lil Bub's Big Fund actually provides grant monies to organizations around the United States who care for special needs animals who are awaiting adoption. Yes, they're waiting to find their way into their forever homes. Fingers crossed. Do want to point out these funds do not go to kill shelters at all. And 100% of all funds raised are awarded as grants. And if you want to learn more about Lil Bub, who actually is a special needs animal and is damn lucky to be alive thanks to her owner, the Dude, and is actually a very, very sweet and cool cat, be sure to go visit lilbub.com, LILBUB.com. So, all right, so everybody's saying hi to each other in chat. Cool deal. So let's move right along, because I know a lot of people are going to be tuning in because they want to check out Time of Crisis, the Roman Empire in Turmoil, 235 to 284 AD from GMT Games. Hey, wait a second, why is that popping up here? That's not supposed to be in there. I cleared these out. Damn you. Anyway, the game is designed by Ray Farrell and Brad Johnson, with artwork and graphic design provided by Roger B. McGowan. The game is for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 2 to 3 hours, does carry an MSRP of $65. So, Nefarious says, yes, been wondering about Time of Crisis since it first came out. Never got off the fence. Well, we're going to jump in. We're going to take a peek. Let me get rid of the shrink wrap as we move over to the other camera here. Bing! There we go. All right. Toss this. I'm going to grab the old reading specs. So, nice big box. And let's take a look at some of the flavor text on the back. Of course, you don't see glare, but I get glare. So, I'm going to tilt this up a little bit, get rid of that. During the crisis of the 3rd century, the Roman Empire nearly collapsed in the face of calamitous internal and external strife, including continuous civil war and barbarian invasions from all directions. In Time of Crisis, 2 to 4 players take the reins of Roman dynasties, gathering and wielding influence among the Senate, military, and people of Rome to ensure that their legacies are remembered by history instead of being lost to the mists of time. Time of Crisis is a light multiplayer wargame that combines some of the signature features of a card-driven wargame with the core concepts of a deck builder. As I mentioned, there's some unusual mechanics in Time of Crisis, or at least mechanics that we're not used to seeing in conflict simulations. Each player begins with the potential of a new barbarian incursion. Will the Goths invade Syria? Will the Franks build their strength? Or will the players get the respite of a Pax Deorum? I thought it was Decorum for a second. I was like, what? Allowing them to draw extra cards and turn more attention on each other? Alright, so, as you can see, it's for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up. This is a complexity 2 out of 9. So, this is considered a low complexity game. This is, I can't think of a GMT release recently that I've seen this low as far as the complexity. It is not great as far as solitaire suitability. I personally wouldn't think it would be. This is not a coin game. This is not part of the coin series. I know there have been some people who have this like misconception that this is a coin game. It is not. So let's see what we've got inside. As I mentioned before, this is the second printing. This is a brand new printing. But I had heard something along the lines of that, like any errata was not actually addressed. So I don't know. This is a second edition, though. I believe this game originally came out in 2016, and this second printing is, well, I think the copyright on it says last year, but it actually didn't start shipping out. So, hey, Rob Moffat's popping in. Good to see you, Rob. Good to see you. Just getting home from work. Jumping on. Yeah, Maneuver is complexity 1. Because, gosh, I was going to say that. Off the top of my head, I think that has got to be the, I don't want to say basic, but I would say that is like really a gateway war game that GMT has done. And, you know, there's a few different like editions of it too. So anyway, so we've got the rules of play. And as we can see, this is not a really thick rule book. Looking at 18 pages, and that's with historical notes. So we've got the introduction, showing the components, talking about starting the game, player setup, definitions, adjacent. That's interesting. This really is kind of aimed at people who may not be all that familiar with GMT Games. Nefarious says one thing about deck builders is that their cards have easily recognizable and sortable indicators on them. I recall thinking the Time of Crisis cards were all just text. Going to be a lot of rereads. I don't know every turn. I don't know. We're going to take a peek. We are going to see. All right, so we're getting some examples here. So we're talking about showing the sequence of play. We're showing the cards. So we've got the sequence of play. We've got upkeep, crisis, taking actions or military actions. Then we've got Senate actions, populist actions. Then we get a support check. Okay. A lot of examples in here too. Buying and trashing cards and determining the winner. Last round of the game is triggered when, at the end of his turn, a player is Emperor and has 60 or more legacy. Showing how combat works. Got crisis checks. And then we got an example of play. So really, all in all, what do we have here? All of 11 pages of rules? Well, 12 pages. But there's a lot of images and examples of play. So really, if we took all that out, we're really probably looking at about 7 pages of rules. So Nefarious says that's coming from someone who started playing Magic the Gathering back in 94, 95. Yeah, Elliot and I actually got on the Magic bandwagon very early. We actually played it at the first Gen Con that it was out at. And in fact, we lucked out, and I've told this story before on the show. We lucked out because they were practically giving them away. Because nobody had heard of it, nobody knew what it was. We had played some demos of it, and we were like, hey, this is pretty cool. And we bought some cases for less. Well, I guess they were like about cost, because of course, you go to these conventions and stuff, especially with a company nobody really knows and a game nobody knows. It's usually cheaper to just sell it at not necessarily a loss, but at cost, as opposed to packing it all up and shipping it back or having to drive it back, what have you. And then we go to Gen Con the next year, and Magic had exploded, and there were all these really shitty clones of Magic. I mean, they were god awful. But yeah, we got in on the ground floor of that. I still play a little Magic the Gathering Arena from time to time. So, all right, so we got some frequently asked questions on this as well. So not a lot of rules. Not a lot of rules at all in this. All right, so then we've got a couple of aids here. Oops. Looks like we've got 2-player, 3-player. So I'm going to take a guess that this crisis table that we're seeing here is probably on the board for 4 players. That might be the default. That's a possibility. That's why we've got these two. One says 2-player crisis table. The other says 3-player crisis table. All right, so then we've got, I'm going to take a guess, we got 4 of these. Single-sided, because it looks like we're going to put our decks here. So it looks like this is, each of the players has their own, might as well zoom in a little bit. Each player is going to have their own kind of player mat. All the information pretty much right here. Talking about legacy, buying and trashing cards, your military actions, your Senate actions, your populist actions. There's our turn sequence. And I guess we'll have counters for our available leaders as well. So, very cool. Kabuki Kid says, I wouldn't mind some more old Magic cards. Yeah, back when they were actually really valuable, when they were worth something. Last year I was at Gen Con and I had to stand in line to get my nephew's badge. Because, of course, I couldn't get him a press badge. Because we're allotted 2 press badges, so Greg goes down, my brother Greg goes down. He's my cameraman at a lot of the conventions. So for the first year, I was going to bring my nephew Cameron down just for a day, and I had to go stand in line late at night to get his badge. And I started talking to some people who were around me, and one of the guys was like really big into Magic. He was talking about how, oh yeah, whoa, oh, he opened one pack and there were like $12 worth of cards in it. I was like, and you got excited about that? I was like, really? I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, all right. It's like, I remember when we had, $2,000 cards, $1,800 cards, $1,000 cards. So we've got some counters here. Looks like these are legions. We're not gonna have tons and tons of counters. Looks like we got a couple of punch boards here. So we've got the various legions for the different factions. Basilicas. Looks like turn markers here. Now we've got some of the barbarians. We've got nomads. We've got the Franks. We're showing breakaway, seats of power. And they are dual-sided. Oh, hey. So these basilicas all look like... I was going to say, there's like text on the back what you do with the basilica, but they're all the same. So I was like, oh, are these basilicas different? So here we go. Looking at the back there. Then we've got... Oh, no, we've got 3 punch boards. Okay. So then we've got... There's almost like a... That's weird. It's almost like an indentation. Like it almost started to cut these counters. I don't know if you can kind of catch this. Try to see if I can get the light to catch it a little bit. That's weird. And it's across. Yeah, it's like they were starting to cut the counters, and it's off a little bit, and then it was like centered and then cut. So kind of weird. All right. I mean, it's not going to freak you out. It's not like it's going to just peel off. I don't think it's just going to peel off the front or back. But yeah, it's kind of strange. I've never seen that before. And it's the entire board here, because there's little circles down here that start, and then it's like, oh nope, sorry. Same with these rectangles, these hexagons. Huh, that's weird. All right, so anyway, taking a look at these. All right. Then we've got No Place Governor. Nope, is that kind of like No Place for Old Men? No Country for Old Men, I should say. Nefarious says, I always check my GMT counters earlier rather than later. I've had to get replacements before. I have not. I have never run across anything that I had to get replacements for. Luckily enough. So Kabuki Kid says, I've been playing Magic since 94 too. I own plenty of those old cards. Plenty are worth more than hundreds. Oh yeah, they are. Yes, they are. At one point, way back in the day, what we used to do is we would actually go and we would take in Magic cards to comic book stores, and we would get half cash, half credit. So you're going in there and you get $1,000 card. Well, they're going to pay you $1,000 for a card. You get 500 cash, 500 credit. We just take the 500 credit and buy more Magic cards and just keep the cycle going. So, all right. So we've got the 3 sheets of counters here. We've got the mounted board, which I think might be new for 2nd edition. I am not positive if it is or not. So let's take a look. Of course, I'm taking a guess it's going to be probably too big for me to get in the entire shot all in one. All right, come on, you. Okay, so cool board though. There's just something about ancient games that I like, ancient history, and I've listened to some lecture series and stuff like that. I can't say that I'm exactly, an expert by any stretch. There you go. There's our crisis table. Remember we saw these here? And I said, oh, well, we must have the 4-player crisis table must be on the board. So there you go. Hey, a prediction I finally got right for a change. So, oh yes, and Nefarious says I got rid of mine back in the 2000s. Kicked myself about a decade later when the prices really shot up. Talking about Magic cards. See, look at what I started here. Everybody's talking about Magic now. Hey, but you know what? Same thing like comic books. When we got rid of, shouldn't say got rid of. When my brother had a huge okay, we won't say huge collection. My brother had a collection probably about 5,000 comics, and it was all Marvel and timely. So he actually had comics that were from World War II. He had like Human Torch number 4, and Captain America number 7 kind of stuff. And he decided he was going to sell his collection, and when he was going to sell his collection, it was basically comics were dead. I mean, they were pretty much dead in the water. So I had all the Star Wars comics from Marvel, and I had a couple of, I think I had 3 copies of the weird, I think if I remember right, it's like the 30-cent Star Wars issue that was out for like a week or 2 or something, and they changed the price. And I couldn't believe that I got almost as much for about, I think it was about 100 Star Wars comics that were from Marvel than my brother got for all like 4,000 of his comics. It was pretty brutal. And it's funny, now you go into a comic place and you'll see up on the walls they've got like, these real vintage issues and stuff. And I'd be like, really? They want like $300 for that? I was like, my brother had that. That wasn't even a big deal. So really cool board. I like this layout for the board. So Thracia. There we got the Franks, we got the Goths. Nice. Cool. You'll need a little bit of space to play this, that's for sure. This looks like this is something that I could easily get my nephew Cameron into. Probably get Elliot into as well, my best friend Elliot. All right, so we got 6-sided dice. We got 6 6-siders, 3 black, 3 white. We got, whoa, as those almost flew off. We got the handy-dandy GMT baggies, which I always have leftover baggies, so that's pretty wild. So we've got that. So Hamill, who just picked up? Robert Moffat just picked up Hannibal and Hamilcar. I got to review that. I have only gotten it to the table once. I enjoyed it, but it's a little too meaty for my group. That's kind of the problem, and especially if I can't get Elliot to the table, some of the heavier games, I can't. I have a hard time getting reviews done of, because I'm not going to be one of these people who just sits and reads the rule book and then pretends like I've played the game so that I can review it. That's just not my style. So, and you know what? There are people out there who are reviewers who do that. Or they play a game once. I think those of you who follow the show, visit the website, unless the game is god-awful, I play a game at least 3 times before I do a review. Because there have been so many times, the first time I played a game, I was playing it wrong. So Rob's wife supports his addiction of gaming. She's usually smacking him around, too. Right, Rob? You're usually watching the show and she just comes up and just gives you a whack for giving me a hard time about something. So we've got an event deck. It's kind of short. Let's see if we got event cards in this stack here. No, we do not. These are all influence cards. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. All right. So, was it Nefarious who was talking about a lot of text on the cards? Because I don't see any. I don't see any text on this at all. I gotta be honest, I don't know what this represents. Obviously, it's some sort of like operation point or something like that. I'm gonna take a guess. It's probably one military operation. Is my guess. Yes, Rob Moffat says, "Yep." That says I couldn't remember who planted that in my noggin. Had to get it after you mentioned that. Oh, you mean Hannibal and Hamilcar? So yeah, so Rob says, yeah, it's his wife. His wife smacks him around when he gives me a hard time. She's like, "Leave Jeff alone." Whack. Yes, actually, Hannibal and Hamilcar is a really, really nice looking game. Really, really. I liked it. I enjoyed it. But like I said, I played it with Cameron, and Cameron was like smoke. You could see smoke coming out of his ears, and you could smell wood burning. So, although, I mean, he's gotten better at game. I mean, he's a good gamer. It's just some stuff is just a little too complex for his chops right now. So, anyway, so I'm taking a guess. These are probably like military operation points, something like that. Now we start getting into stuff with some text. So these are casters. Then we've got flanking maneuver. Oh, okay, so this is no doubt used for combat. These are all flanking maneuvers. Praetorian Guard. Yeah, a lot of repeats there. And then I'm taking a guess this is probably populace. Probably populace points. So Nefarious says the Hannibal and Hamilcar. Why do I keep pausing to say Hannibal? Because I want to say, I keep wanting to say something else. It's like, what? Hey, all right, you and you, thanks for popping by. See you next time. Hey, try to stop by and check out good old Things from the Flood tomorrow, seeing that you liked RPGs. So these look like these are populace here. Populace cards. The Quester. A mob. There we go. Mob rule, baby. Yeah, just mob rule. Start cranking up the Black Sabbath song from Heavy Metal. The Pretender. And this I believe is the Senate. I think we had the Senate. Was one of the Senate. Yeah, that's right. We got Senate actions. So we got these. So I'd take a guess that use these points for your actions, and then when we get into the ones that are like 2, maybe it's along the lines of a lot of the card-driven games that we're used to seeing, where it's 2 points that you can use for like your operations or your actions, or you can do what's on the card. That's a possibility there. So we see it goes from 1 to 4. Damnatio Memorae. Play immediately after you become Emperor. Subtract legacy from the former Emperor equal to your support in Italia. Then place a number of mob counters equal to the former Emperor's support in Italia and provinces you govern in any way you wish. Aha, okay. So that is the influence deck here. And these are the rest of the cards. Let's take a look at these event cards. Should be interesting. Plague of Cyprian. Ardashar. Priest King of Emsa. Palmyra Allies? No, I don't think that's how it's pronounced. There you go. Robert Moffat's like, yeah, he remembers that song from Heavy Metal. I remember, I think, I'm almost positive, I think Heavy Metal was the first R-rated movie I actually went to the theater and saw just by myself. And I was 13 when it came out. I always looked a lot older than I was. And then, until I got old, I used to look a lot younger than I was. But yeah, I remember going to see Heavy Metal. I was 13. I went and saw it at the theater. And the part with the like the zombies on the bomber freaked the crap out of me. So it's like... I was like, it was actually after he parachutes out and he's on the island with all the crashed planes. So Nefarious says, yeah, it does look pretty low on the difficulty scale. Yes. And Rob says, little Ronnie James Dio. Yeah, little is right. Nefarious says, hasn't seen Heavy Metal in ages. The sequel to it was terrible. It was awful. All right, so we got some different events too. Cool. So we've got the two different decks. We've got our GMT baggies. We've got our dice. We've got the cool board. We've got the 2 and 3 player crisis tables here. We've got our 3 punch boards of counters, as well as our 4 player mats with basically player aids on them. We got the concise rules of play, and that is what we find when we take everything from Time of Crisis, the Roman Empire in turmoil, outside the box. So, as I mentioned before, this is for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up. We already saw the complexity is a 2 out of 9, and this does carry an MSRP of $65. As I always point out with GMT releases, if you are interested in picking this up, don't wait, because GMT does not do big print runs on their games. So this was out of print for like 2 years, 2.5 years. So you don't want to be sitting there and be like, oh yeah, well, I didn't pick it up, and now I got to go on the secondary market and pay way more than MSRP. So Robert Moff says, Mailman delivered Victory in the Pacific replacement pieces and map from Camelot Games. I was going to say, I'm not familiar with... I mean, I remember Victory in the Pacific is also an Avalon Hill game, if I remember correctly. So as I pointed out, we're also going to take a look at the Time of Crisis, the Age of Iron and Rust. So we are going to take a look at this expansion as well. The Time of Crisis, the Age of Iron and Rust, once again, is from GMT Games. This is also designed by Ray Farrell and Brad Johnson, with artwork and graphic design. Why are these popping up? I got rid of all these. Damn you. Ugh. This is irritating me. I had all this stuff all set up and good to go, and removed all these other images from these little slides. It's like... Anyway, so there's artwork and graphic design provided by Roger B. McGowan. This is an expansion, obviously, to the core game. You do need the core game to play, and it does carry an MSRP of $25. So we're going to switch on over to the other camera as well. So, yeah, the old Avalon Hill... So, Victory in the Pacific from Camelot Games is just a reprint of the old Avalon Hill game? Rob, I'm not familiar with it. I mean, I remember Victory in the Pacific. I swear it's Victory in the Pacific. There were so many naval Avalon Hill games that we played, because we were big naval fans. That's why we played so much Fletcher Pratt's, and that's why I introduced Fletcher Pratt's to my nephew and his friends. So yeah, spoilers for Friday. Not sure where Nefarious Coel is talking about that. Maybe responding to somebody else. Yes, the black and white picture on the front of the box. Yes, I remember that too. So, yeah, it's... Rob says, it's an old game, Jeff. Fun as hell. I'm an old dude. I'm fun as hell too. So there you have it. Let's move on over to the other camera. We'll take a look at the Age of Iron and Rust Time of Crisis expansion. Let me grab a sip here. We got more cards, so we got more options. So I know that's included in this, but I do notice we also have some pieces here, which look very familiar as far as if you play like coin games. So we'll take a look at those in just a little bit. Let's take all this stuff out of the poly bag here. So we've got more cards for the influence deck. Taking a guess, these are events. No, more influence deck cards. And then we've got just a little counter board. Just a little tiny one. Okay, so first thing we'll do is we're going to take a look at the rules of play. Looks like we've got, maybe have some new player aids as well. So we'll zoom in on this just a touch. There we go. So, grand total of 12 pages. So, this expansion adds several new options to Time of Crisis. You may choose to play with any combination of these additions. I'm zoomed in a little too much. Let's zoom out. There we go. There we go. So, we've got new influence cards. We've got new Emperor rules. And we have non-player faction rules. There you go. So, if you're playing with less than 4 players, now you've got... I bet you that's what these like aids that I can feel back here, these cardboard additions. So we're showing up the components, the new influence cards is showing fixed setups, variable setups, and we got the optional Emperor rules. Types of Emperor. So you could be a populist Emperor, a military Emperor, or a Senate Emperor, being removed as Emperor. Here we got the optional non-player faction rules, so we've got AI. That's kind of cool. Then we got card notes, an example of play with the non-player faction rules, and historical notes. Sweet. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about where I was like, oh, I can tell there's like player aids or something here. So it looks like this is for the AI. Are there 4 copies of this? Each player would get it? So we show AI event guidelines, Senate events, military events, populist events, influence card references, AI action priority, and AI military guidelines. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's pretty wild. So we have 4 of these. Then we get Max Administrax. Oh, we've got different emperors now. That's kind of wild. So are these... I wonder if these are supposed to be like these are the non-players. Like the non-player faction. Gordian, the 3rd. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. So, these are just single-sided, too. So, I'm taking a stab. These might actually be the non-player factions. So, you can have the extra players added in. Pretty wild. I honestly don't know why there's 4 copies of this, though. So isn't this supposed to be, if you're using the AI to replace one of the 4 players? So even if you were playing solitaire, wouldn't you only need 3? Actually, you'd only need 1 if you're playing solitaire. But that's pretty wild. Okay, so we've got all those. Then we got the rules. Then, now we'll zoom in a little bit. Now we can zoom in, take a peek. Okay, so we've got, just have a new counter, little punch board here. So these are those 3 emperors we just saw. And they're dual-sided. Let's take a look at the decks of cards. So we've got the new influence cards. So these are optional. Didn't look like you could pick and choose. It looked like you're either going to, you're actually going to use these or not. So, yeah, Robert says, last week I was watching War Game Wednesday while playing Star Wars Rebellion with his son. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yes. And Nefarious is like, no, that one Emperor's name, I don't want to hear that out loud. That's actually why I said that, because I was like, wait a second. Is that how that's kind of pronounced? Rob says I always get blasted as the rebels. Damn Empire! Which is unusual because most Star Wars games, they always gimp the Empire. You know? Yes, I understand. No stormtrooper knows how to actually shoot straight, but still. Seems like the Star Wars games always just gimp the Empire, so it's like, oh yeah, you're not going to win this. So we got Cavalry. So we got that. We've got Forced March, or I should say Force March. Spiculum. So these are all the military ones. Then we've got the Populace. Ambitus. Mobile Vulgus. And Demagogue. Then we got the Senate. Princeps Senatus. Oh, we had the same one before, too, didn't we? Yeah, this was the number 4 for the Senate before. Huh, that's interesting. So, Kabuki Kid says, I tend to get crushed as the Empire, but the friend I play against is very good at the game. Yeah, you know, yeah, I love minis. I really, really dig miniatures. I have not painted miniatures in a long time, but I used to paint shitloads of minis. I was pretty decent at it, too. But, playing the games against some of the people, I mean, I guess it's like anything, any game. But some of the miniature gamers out there are just, they take these games just way too seriously. And I guess, you know, I kind of understand. Yeah, you spend a lot of money on your minis and stuff like that. You invest a lot of time into painting them and stuff, but or like some people actually pay somebody else to paint them. You know, why would you ruin like someone else's day, or more than one person's day, by being a complete jerk playing these games? I mean, you invest all that money, you invest all that time, and then you're gonna just be a dick? I don't know. I don't get it. Okay, so we get Triumph, the comic insult dog. There we go. Perfect. How much you want to bet that these cards are not supposed to be in this deck? That it's supposed to be Triumph? I'm taking a stab. That's why we had that little deck off to the side that's been added in. I'm taking a stab in the dark. That's why we've got those. All right, and then we've got these pieces here. So it's kind of like, so we get the bubble wrap around a baggie with the pieces here. So, yes, miniature battle games are way too pricey for me. Yeah, you know, the funny thing is, years ago, my sister-in-law had asked me, and my nephew Cameron was probably 12 years old, and he had a friend in school who I guess was getting into Warhammer 40K. And yeah, that's what I was thinking. I thought these looked kind of like the Fallen Sky pieces here too. Maybe it's just a new way of marking different things, just so it's a little cooler on the board. I don't know. I'm not sure. So, but I was gonna say, she'd asked me about it. Do you know anything about that? And I was like, yeah, I know a lot about Warhammer 40K. Why? She's like, oh, well, your brother and I were thinking of maybe blah, 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 getting him into it. I was like, oh, absolutely not. I was like, no, 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 no. Because for one, I didn't want to have a nephew who's one of these nitwits who goes to the game store with their unpainted army so that they could play. And it's just a money sink. I mean, it really is. Especially Games Workshop. And I love their sculpts. Don't get me wrong. I love their sculpts. But the prices are just insane. So that's why, really, for me, if I were going to get into, doing much like fantasy, any kind of fantasy stuff, I would definitely stick to skirmish. I would really, really make sure I stuck to a skirmish game. So along the lines of, say, like Frostgrave, something like that. All right, so we've got the new pieces. We've got the little punch board. We've got another, whoops, as I bang the camera around. We got a whole bunch of new cards to be added with new options. Got a bunch of baggies. We've got these 4 AI event guideline player aids. We've got these, what appears to be non-player factions with 3 new emperors. So we've got those. And of course, we've got the rules of play. And that's what we find when we take everything out of the bag for the Age of Iron and Rust. Which, funny enough, I gotta be honest, to me it's like, that should be like the title to a Bruce Springsteen album, or like Neil Young. It was the Age of Iron and Rust. All right, so that is it for tonight's show. I will have a review of Time of Crisis probably within about 3 weeks, because I can tell the complexity level's not real high. Cameron, my nephew, really, really digs deck building games, so I could kind of throw that aspect at him too, and try to get some other of the gang in on this as well. So Robert Moffat says, what's the Star Wars capital ship miniature game called? It is Armada, isn't it? Could have swore isn't it Star Wars Armada? Don't know. I guess there's some like a joke floating around. Maybe that's what it was. Anyway, Rob, are you laughing at me? Because I'm going to ask your wife to crack you one. No, just teasing. Yeah, so yeah, Star Wars Armada is the one that's got the capital ships. And those sculpts are super cool. But, wow. Just like X-Wing. And you know what? I don't have really much of a relationship with Fantasy Flight Games. Once Anton kind of moved out of their PR department and they got bought up by Asmodee and that huge monster there, I haven't seen an Fantasy Flight game for review in years now. But what they pulled with X-Wing, I was kind of like, really? It was like, oh, okay, so yeah, we got our new addition to X-Wing, and the game wasn't that old. The game had only been out, 4 years? It's like, yeah, we got our new edition, and if you want to upgrade all the ships you already own, if you had all of the ships, it was going to cost you something like $200 to update the minis with the bases or whatever for the new edition. I was like, man, that's ridiculous. So anyway, glad I don't get too involved with miniatures games, even though I love miniatures. And I might actually start doing some videos, some standalone videos, showing people how to paint miniatures, just for like a tabletop grade paint job. We're not talking like Golden Demon or anything like that. Just so your minis pop on the tabletop. Thinking about doing that. It would just be very, very difficult to film it, and that's kind of the problem. So anyway, as I mentioned, that's it for tonight's show. I will be back tomorrow. We will be taking a first look at Things from the Flood from Free League Publishing and Modifius Entertainment. As I like to point out, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com For all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. All right, so thank you very much for those who are in chat for keeping me company again tonight. Of course, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. I'll be back tomorrow. And for those watching live who didn't involve themselves in chat, or if you're watching after the fact, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.